$80,000 is how much Fayez made on his very first wholesale deal. And he didn't find it how you thought. He didn't just look for distressed properties. Instead, he looked for a distressed wholesaler, and he built a relationship with them because they had this deal they couldn't sell. And he said, I'm going to come in and sell this in one day if you just give me a chance to JV on this deal. And that's the best part about this episode.
Yeah, I would say Fayez is a great example for you. Whatever level of tenacity you have to take towards getting your first deal, he exemplifies that. From following someone into the bathroom to secure his spot in a deal, to just how he handles his everyday approach on getting a deal at no matter what cost, getting a deal signed, and his goals on how he's going to do in his business for this year and what he's going to do for his team is just unbelievable.
We could just honestly just continue the conversation, but maybe a good place to restart would be, could you give us an overview of your business in 30 seconds? I know you just said you did 200 deals a year, mix of novations, wholesale, flips, and buy and holds.
Yeah. So I have a few different businesses. My main business is Win-Win Homes. I also have another company called Synergy Homes, another investment company, which does a lot of flipping with FJ Real Investments. So, I've been part of CG for many years, and so kind of learn to do the vertical integrations. So we're always looking at different exits, because at the end of the day, all we are about is finding win-win solutions for the customer, which is the person who's, trying to sell their home and a traditional path doesn't work. So we basically work on, the first part of it is wholesale. If wholesale doesn't work for them because, the pricing doesn't work, that's why we've switched to Novations for the last 2.5 years. We learned from amazing guys like Eric Brewer that taught us how to do Novation or Novation King, and we kind of made it our own way. And we actually shifted from, doing this virtually for approximately about 8 years to going more in person. Like now, almost all our appointments are in person, where before it was almost all virtually. We're signing up deals. I think the highest point was about 2 years ago. We hit about $1 million a month in revenue, just in our wholesale Novation business. That's not counting other businesses that we have. So currently, right now, I would say it's wholesale, Novation, fix and flip, buy and hold, Airbnbs. That's our core business, and we also are getting into brokerage.
Which one of those did you start with?
So the first one I started off with wholesaling.
Got it. Can you talk us about your first deal? And then I want to get to how it expanded to many different.
I want to correct myself. So actually, I started in real estate more than 25 years ago. I know I got started getting into gray hair early, but it's like I started doing commercial real estate in about 20 countries. The first thing was actually in property management. I got into commercial, big 1,500 units property in Newport Beach in California. That's where I grew up. And then I did like office buildings, hotels, apartment buildings, Airbnbs around the world. So that's my background. I only came into residential about a little bit over 4 years ago, and that's when I got in my first wholesale deal. So talking about my first wholesale deal, I didn't know anything about wholesale. It was Bigger Pockets, Brandon Turner, watching him, like was when I found out about wholesale. And I was working, in a commercial space at that time, doing a lot of commercial stuff. But with COVID, things were changing, and you have to adapt, right? When things change and people are not going to the office anymore, you have to look at a different world, right? So that's why I came across wholesaling. Somebody recommended me. The previous company that I was with, I came in at the bottom level. They didn't give me any leads or anything, just starting off in a commission-only basis role. And they told me, let's go JV. So the first deal I had, I came here and I just moved to Washington for the first time, didn't know anybody. So they said, there's a guy who's trying to sell a deal, but he can't sell it for the last 2 months. And so I was trying to call the guy up. Hey, give me a chance. I'm going to dispose this deal for you. And he's like, I cannot get him to respond back because, I'm a newbie. He's like been in the market for a while. He didn't know who I was, just calling him. And finally, I used some of my contacts. One of my friends that I knew him. We organized a dinner. We went to dinner. And it's a funny story. I actually followed the guy in the bathroom. And I said, if you're not going to give me a chance to deal, your deal's about to expire. Just give me 2 days. Your deal's about to expire. If I don't get it for you, then you have nothing to lose. And he finally gave me, after we used the restroom, he got to give me a chance to get a deal. So that deal, he was trying to sell it for over 2 months, and he tried different JV partners in wholesale. Nothing worked. But because I had that mindset coming from the commercial world, and I knew from hotels looking at things a different way, so I actually drove up to that property, drove around it. I didn't have the relationship with the seller, kind of saw an angle, and I saw something that was an opportunity because he was also selling it virtually. So he never went there in person. So I saw there was an opportunity with the basement that was not built out and finished. And also there was a garage there with an alley that could be built. So I saw the potential. I didn't know anything. I was just watching a lot of Bigger Pockets and all the different channels and everything. So in the end of the day, we made $50,000 in the front end from the wholesale deal that we got to sign less than 24 hours. We used
On
that to
this
get an
deal.
extension to close it on this specific deal.
Wow.
And we went back to the seller, got a reduction. So total assignment fee was $80,000. That's my first deal.
Well, so the guy that you met in the bathroom, was he a real estate agent that was listing it, or was he
No,
actually
he was a wholesaler. He's a very well-known wholesaler in our market. A good friend of mine today. And I won't say the name out loud, but he's very well known in our market. And we still laugh about that story, is how we started in wholesale, or at least I started in wholesale.
Did he know you before you followed him into the bathroom?
Well, yeah, we were at dinner together. So we were at dinner through the mutual friend. He didn't know me at
Okay.
all. It was the first time I met him at dinner. I was calling him. I was not able to get a hold of him on the phone. So I used a common friend to meet about something else. And we were talking. And I couldn't get the conversation because it was a dinner. I couldn't get the conversation. So I was like, okay, this is my chance. Like, I have to figure out a way to get this done, because I was reporting into two guys that were doing this for a while, and I had to prove myself. And I had to make the money. So I'm like, This is either do or die mentality. I'm like, what's the worst thing he's going to say? Hey, sorry, I'm not interested. But at least I got a chance to have a conversation with him. And that conversation made both of us a lot of money.
So you made 50, but you also went back to the seller and renegotiated the contract. How did that conversation go?
So that part of the conversation was not with me. I basically told the wholesaler that he should go back and have a conversation with the seller, because I saw that there was a lot of stuff on the property everywhere, and like we would have to get it cleaned up. And also at that point, I think he was working with the seller for many, many months. In wholesale, when you in the beginning, nobody would trust you with the seller, right? You don't have that. That's why I had to walk outside the neighborhood. I couldn't go inside at that point, right? So I had to walk around the house many times to figure out the angle. So I knew there was a lot of stuff there. So I said to him, look, we will take care of everything for you. Just go back to him. He had already told them that he might have to back out with the seller because his due diligence period was ending. So I thought he would have to put the EMD up. So the seller already knew the deal was not going to go through, because it was a lot more cost than we had, when they had originally signed it up. And that's why we're able to get a reduction. And we told them that, hey, if you got this reduction, we were going to be able to get this deal signed up in the next, next few days and get it closed right away. Because the buyer that I found, and that was through the existing network that is already there, I met up with the buyer, showed him my angle, what I was thinking, what the opportunity was. And the funny thing is, this world is a very small place, and the relationship build is so important. I actually followed up with that seller to make sure he made profit, because I wanted to make sure that my idea that I told him actually, came up to fruition, and he also won. That's the idea of where win-win homes comes from today, is trying to find win-win-win situations.
That's awesome.
One thing you said was you had approached it like you would in the commercial space. So I wanted to make sure I understood what you meant by that. And I think what you meant was, a lot of times commercial properties, you're selling it or you're leasing it. It doesn't look like it's going to be when they actually have it, right? Then they do construction and they make it a nice storefront. They make it their own office. So you kind of have to sell the idea of what it can become. Is that what you meant by that?
In a sense, yeah. So when I was for example, building hotels and trying to get hotel projects going in Poland, I was working in Eastern Europe. And a lot of times, when you're trying to build a hotel in a tiny little space of land, right? It's just land, you're doing development. A lot of times investors, funds they're dealing with, people or the hotel operators are going to come in, be in that hotel. They don't see the vision of what could be, right? One solution doesn't work. So you got to try a few different angles. So for example, you might start off with, okay, let's do a hotel wide that's only 3-story tall. Or you might work in a location where you might go 8-story tall, right? So every hotel brand had a different view of what was their brand identity and what worked for the solution they wanted. So you always have to look at each project in the commercial world in a different way. You can't just look at the same lens as yourself. You have to look at a lens of your customer. So in this case, I tried to find buyers that specialize in building out basement units, building it out. They had experience in it. I also people that wanted to convert, and rent out the garage, convert the garage into a livable space. So I was trying to look for that kind of investor. So I was taking different approaches. But when you don't go in person, that's why the migration that we had, right? The reason in the commercial world, you go out and you walk the site very regularly. When we're in the residential world, we're not talking about 10 million, 30 million, or 100 million, right? We're talking about, a house maybe for 200 grand, 500 grand, maybe $1 million. And the most expensive house we bought is like 2 million, right? So people don't put in the time and effort. They want to do everything over the phone. So the number one thing is you got to build a relationship with the seller and the people involved. So I made that change by going in person and looking at it from a different lens. So I walked around that neighborhood, looked at what was possible there. And the reason why I mentioned the commercial part is I walked down the street and I found 3 other houses that had a similar scenario that had that space built out. So I'm like, there's a need here based on the comps that I saw that in this neighborhood, people have that already set up. So that it was something that I didn't came up with myself. I just kind of watch, look, and say, can I implement this here? That's where the commercial world example came in.
Did you have a lot of investors that you were able to connect with that would be buyers on your wholesale deals from your commercial world?
No. So, the commercial world, a lot of the funds I worked with, the minimum buy box for them was 30 million. So for me to put together residential deals together at 30 million, that's a lot of houses, right?
Where
So
did
a lot of the
you
funds
where
I
did you
worked with
find
was,
your buyer?
yeah.
Where did you find your buyer for this deal so quickly?
It's through the network I was in. So like I said, so one of the biggest things that Brandon taught me, and like I had a lot of experience in real estate and I did a lot of these big deals. He said that go work with a group, whatever you want to go learn in, almost be an intern. So what I did is I started from the bottom up. I didn't have the ego. I joined an existing, company that was there. They were already doing wholesaling, but they basically told me that, hey, they didn't know me from what my background was. I said, hey, they offered me an opportunity to grow in the company and become a partner, but I said, no, let me start on the bottom. I'm going to come in commission only. They didn't give me any leads. I had to this lead I found out on my own by going on a Facebook group, connecting, saw him marketing this deal. It wasn't working, so I reached out to this guy. They just kind of gave me the overlay of it and also access to their buyers when I had a deal. So that's why I reached out to those buyers. But the difference is most people buyers, all they do is they send the marketing out. They don't actually build a personal relationship. Because I only had like 48 hours, I actually sent the email out, saw who opened it, and I actually went on the phone and called each one of them personally. And because this is my first deal, it's the only deal I had. And I had 48 hours before the deal was going to be dead. So I called the persons up and I got the right person who answered the phone and said, hey, there's an opportunity here to make a lot of money that, was not mentioned in the original marketing. Would you be interested to have a conversation? Meet me at the other side. So it's about that personal relationship and making that connection. It's a much deeper relationship than just sending out an email blast for your deal.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a question. You were doing property management for a 1,500 unit building. You were helping build, sell land and build hotels. Sounds like. Why did you start doing wholesaling? It sounded like great stuff you were doing before.
Yeah. So actually, let me correct that. So I started off my career in real estate. Everybody's heard of Rich Dad Poor Dad, right?
Yeah.
So that's where my story started too. But in my case, it was like rich mom, poor mom. My best friend's mom was like my, rich dad, right? And she got into real estate. She came to this country with literally nothing. She came from Ecuador, and I saw her when I met her. And I came as an immigrant in this country too, right? And I saw her. She did so well. She started with nothing in life, and she built, those businesses. I was very blessed that I came from, generation of entrepreneurs. I mean, I started my first company when I was 14 years old, so I already had that entrepreneur spirit there before I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. So I said, you know what? I don't want to have a mom and pop business. So the reason I went to the commercial world, I actually got in there from temping in property management. I hooked up with some guys, which is what I'm eventually went to. They were buying up huge commercial properties, like multifamily properties, and they're fixing them up and then increasing the NOI and then selling those properties or refinancing them, keeping them, right? So I starting off as a temp person in there, as a property manager on their side. I built a very good relationship with them, became permanent, and I actually ended up being a property manager for almost 1,500 units in Newport Beach, right? At that time, they're like, hey, we want to, streamline you to go and become a partner down the road if you went back to school and did a degree in real estate. They went to University of Wisconsin. At that time, financially, I was not in a place where I could take time off and not work, because I've been working since I was 14 years old. I've done so many things, right? And I'm like, I can't go to university 4 years. I can't afford it. So it didn't happen, but I learned a lot of good things. So the seed was planted. Since then, I always was in real estate. So then I worked for a very, very big company and doing commercial real estate with Procter & Gamble. And I ended up understanding how to do commercial real estate, the structure, and then the process behind it. I know I'm giving you a long word answer, but I want to give you the background, the story, how I got to this.
Yeah.
Then from there, I did all these projects where I was doing office development, office design, existing offices build out for big corporates. Then I did hotels, I did Airbnbs. When 2021 and 2019, I came back to the US, and then we had COVID happen in 2020, right? All the offices went empty. Like the whole world came to a stop, right? And especially I was living in the Bay Area where everything stopped. Nobody was going to California. It was very, very harsh on COVID. So I'm like, there wasn't much going on. And at that time, what was happening is my company that I was with at that time, they were laying off people. And I had people that basically came in that I kind of brought in from over the years knowing them. So I cared about them. So I basically took a cut of my position So basically save their jobs because they have families and everything. Because I've always bounced back on my feet. So at that point, I was interviewing with Google, DoorDash, various positions. But one of my friends who actually introduced to Rich Dad Poor Dad, she said, "Oh, there's this guys in Washington. They're looking for some position to get into residential investment. We're trying to do it with bigger pockets, trying to do this thing on the side." And then, like, I remember Brandon's word: "Go work with somebody that you want to be at." So I basically just called them up. I said, "Look, I have all this experience, but I'm still humble. I just want an opportunity to prove myself." He said, "Where do you need help on?" He said, "We've been trying to do this JV thing 3 times. We failed multiple times. Why don't you come and do that?" I didn't even know what JV meant for the residential world. So I came into that role, and that's how I got into wholesaling. So sorry for the long answer. Does that make sense?
So you were working for companies. Now you're wholesaling. You're your own boss.
Well, at that point, I've had various companies. I've had probably like 13 or 14 businesses before then. So I was either an entrepreneur or entrepreneur over those years when I was doing commercial real estate.
Have you ever had a tough time as an entrepreneur? Have you ever had a big struggle? Or
I don't think you can be, you cannot have a sentence where entrepreneur doesn't have a tough time. I think, that's why not everybody's an entrepreneur. I mean, I've seen it in my own family, generations of wealth and losing everything. I've gone through it myself. There was times on the top of the world, and there's times I literally was sleeping in my car. So entrepreneurship is not a straight path. I think any entrepreneur who's self-made understands the challenges. The point is, you got to believe in yourself. You got to reflect on the positive mindset. You got to have the right people around you, and you have the right tools and the processes in place to succeed. So things change all the time. Any business, like I remember Yahoo. Do you guys remember Yahoo? I mean, they still exist, but you guys know how big Yahoo was at one point, right? There was a point where I negotiated Yahoo's headquarters, 300,000 square feet of space, because they were at that time losing. I actually developed with a developer 1.2 million square feet of office space, right? With a developer. So Yahoo didn't adapt. They were number one. They didn't adapt. So as an entrepreneur, the number one thing is you got to constantly adapt as market changes.
Zooming into the wholesaling side of things, the first deal you found, it didn't seem like there was actually an expense because you had gotten to know a major wholesaler in your market. You found out there was a deal he was not able to JV with anyone to sell it, and you stepped up to find and connect with buyers and pitch it in a certain way. So, like, what did you do next to find your next deal? That one was kind of special where you didn't really have to source it other than
actually, funny enough, that's what I was hired for. So I was hired for, they were not going to spend any marketing dollars from me. I was an unknown quantity. I had to prove myself. So I actually built a whole JV business around it. And all we did was we went on different sources. Majority of it was on some Facebook groups that was around wholesalers and real estate investment and everything. And we would reach out to people and say, "Look, I have a different perspective. I came from a different background. And we got all these deals with zero expense." I mean, there was some expenses in the sense that we had to have a CRM, we had to have some tools for that JV department area. But most of it, we started off with the Excel sheet. It was very simple. Like, hey, there's an opportunity here. And the difference was that I became a specialist for the deals that could not be sold. And I consistently started selling deals that way. I partnered with, actually, funny enough, just yesterday, I was talking to another wholesaler. He called me out of the blue. And me and him did, like, at that point, that first year, probably $100,000 in assignment fees on average every single month, because he gave me all these JV deals. And he just called me up, like, "I'm getting back into the wholesale game. Are you still active to work with me?" So you know what? It's a very small community. All I did out there is that day I arrived here, I was actually supposed to be working remotely, but I put the effort in to go out there, meet with people, introduce myself, say, "I'm new to this. I know commercial real estate, but I want to help you make money." It was all about just reaching out and said, "How can I help you make money?" And the reason why in the beginning they didn't trust me, they gave me the worst deals that they had, they couldn't sell. Then eventually they started giving me the best deals, because not only was I making them, even though they shared the percentage of the deal, they made more money at 50% or 60% than they did at 100% of less. So for example, if they were able to sell their deal for like 10,000 or 20,000, we were getting deals where we were selling it for 60,000, 70,000. So they were making way more money. So, but you have to prove yourself first. You have to earn the right to earn that respect for them to trust you.
Well, now you said you're doing about a deal per day, right? You said you have 5 appointments per day, and you're personally going on them as well as some of your team. And you do a lot of novations. So I'm curious, how did novations grow to be a big part of your business when wholesaling was growing great?
So In 2022 or 2023, like I think May of 2022, the market was still very hot, right? And everybody was getting, the sellers were to be able to demand the price they wanted. And with wholesale, we're definitely going for 70% of ARV minus the rehab and what you want to make in assignment fee, right? That's the general model that we all follow. Well, these sellers are like, no, I want more, or I can go to market and sell it. So at that time, we were losing a lot of deals. And again, we were doing everything virtually. So the Novations, actually, I gotta give it credit to Alex. He had, seen something on one of the CG classes or something like that. I can't remember where it came from. I think it was maybe Novation King or Eric Brewer. So we came with this idea of Novation, and they were like, "Oh, let's do this Novation." And we had already had that time in that business. I was just doing the JV side of the business, right? And every time a deal would fall to the main wholesale business, it would come to me to sell. But then this new idea came of Novation. They're like, "Oh, this is so much work." Like, we were trying to do the first Novation deal. We couldn't even close it for 6 months. It kept on falling. It kept on falling, right? So the other, the manager, dispo manager that exists in the company, she's like, "I don't want this. I just want to stick with wholesaling." So I put my hand up. Okay, I'll take this. And we had the first deal closed. We went from doing Novation that time. We were doing an average assignment fee of something around 27, 28K off memory. With Novation coming in the mix, probably like 6 or 7 months later, our average assignment fee went up to about 71,000.
Oh my gosh!
So it was not easy. Novation was like and actually it presented at CG about Novation. So we went, basically, the concept is, the innovation is that in wholesale, you sell it to an investor who basically pays you a price to be able to make up their profit from it, right? And you get a quick cash cycle. You get it sold. He takes all the risk. He takes on everything. He puts an earnest money deposit, which is non-refundable. Innovation is different because you're locking it up. You got to have that trust with that seller to be able to give you the right to list it. Also give you a power of attorney, which is not something easy to do. You have to work with escrow companies. Most escrow companies will not work with you. Then you have to start working with agents. Then you have to understand how funding works, getting appraisals, inspections. Now, before in wholesale, like, doesn't matter what the condition of the property was. You just sold it as is, and the investor dealt with it, right? Because he had hard money loan. It's very easy to get approved. Here, you were getting FHA loans, VA loans, where they came in inspection. So we had to learn the hard way, and we became experts at this. We're not the biggest Novation group in the country, but as a percentage, we're definitely number one in the state of Washington in terms of innovations we do as a percentage of our business. And that has allowed us to consistently grow our business. Now, look, like I said, you talked about entrepreneurship, right? Unfortunately, through all the success, our partners, because we were three of us, we went separate ways. So we lost our whole acquisition team. We had to start over. And that's where Win-Win was born, right? And we had to learn hard way. We went from top of the world to the bottom again to start over. And then we thought, okay, we can do this easily. We're going to go to 19 states. We knew Novations. We made $1 million a month. It's easy, right? No, we struggled. We almost went bankrupt. We almost went out of business. We had to let go of our key staff within the first 6 months because we went through some challenges with the old partnership, right? So it's not a straight road. Just because you're successful doesn't mean you did. But today, we do something called, it's a hybrid model of Novation Flips, where I just did 4 deals where we fix up the property while we're owning with the seller still owns it, and we sell it together as a partnership. So we're able to offer them more money. So we're not paying those hard money costs. Now, you talked to me about what we're doing today. So one of the biggest changes we did is when we went to that route of going to 19 states, we went back to, like, again, from CG is amazing. That's why you got to have great mentors. Leon actually had a conversation with us, and he was like, you know what? You got to go deeper. Eric Brewer said the same thing. You got to go deeper in your own backyard. And, I used to be working in global markets, right? 20 markets around the world. So for me, it was hard to understand. And I had to learn, you know what? I got to get deeper because I have the relationships here. So we have adapted now in Win-Win Homes and through the other business that we're focusing on our own backyard. We have multiple exits. And through the different companies that I have right now, we got every single person in the company is focusing on in-person appointments within a 1 hour radius of where I live. So right now I'm bringing on some new people in my team who are agents who are working for us. And I'm going out there on the appointments themselves. And in the last 3 days, I think yesterday I signed up a deal at around 8 p.m. starting at 9 a.m. in the morning. So you don't give up until you get a deal signed up. The day before I had 2 deals. The previous week I had probably 3 deals in one day. I almost got to 1 to 5. So, like, the key is, did it come immediately? No. We had to consistently go out for 3 weeks, build that pipeline of business. You follow up with those customers. You never push anybody. You try to find a value add, and you set up follow-up appointments. So the main thing I do at every single appointment, the main goal that I have is build rapport, build trust, and get a next appointment on the calendar with them.
Yeah.
So
I'm a
I
huge
can
fan
do
of
that.
in person. I think it makes such a big difference, especially since so much has gone virtual. So I'm not surprised to hear that you've done that and it's going well.
Mhm.
I was curious, just for clarity. So wholesale, you're selling it to like a private list of buyers. You might have their email address or personal relationship with. Novation typically allows you to list it on the market, right? With like
Yes.
on the MLS.
Yes.
So do you have to be an agent to do innovation, or do you just have to work with an agent so that they can list it for you?
So at this point today, I'm not an agent. I work with agents. That's why I brought agents on my team to be part of it. We started off with agents in the market, but the level of sophistication, not everybody understand how to do innovation the right way. And that's where you can get in trouble, right? So you need to have trusted partners. Again, going deep in the market goes with deep in your relationships. You invest with people that you partner with because they have a vested interest in you. And that's what we do now. We work with amazing agents that know the process. They know what we're saying. We all speak the same language. Because the biggest disconnect we had is we would say something like wholesale. The agent would speak their language of being a realtor, listings and everything, open houses. That scared the sellers. Like, hey, I wanted to avoid this. How does this work, right? So the whole point of innovation is for them is to take all that headache of dealing with agents directly, negotiating deals, dealing with all those requests. They have a set amount that they get based on our evaluation. So they know what the number they're getting based on the disclosures they've given us, as long as those disclosures are correct. And then we take care of all the headache. So we take that risk of the arbitrage between the price we have it locked up at and what we sell on the market. And if anything comes back into the repairs, we take care of those repairs.
Got it. So Novation allows you as an investor to come do what you do well, which is make repairs, make improvements to the house. It lets you do that on a faster timeline because you don't have to take it down first, right? And then so that's actually what Novation gives you the power to do, right? You created the value in that process to be able to sell it for more.
So it varies from Novation. Novations, like I mentioned to you, we've probably done over 200 deals in Novation, and they vary. Some deals you make only 5-10 grand after the repairs because you run into bigger repairs. Where some I've had a deal where it's 173,000, right? And we've created the value for the wholesaler. We created a value for everybody because the key is with Novation allows me, but the part you're talking about renovation, we don't always do renovation. We only do renovations once we get a buyer and once they tell us what needs to be sorted out. That's when we spend money. A lot of times people in innovation start to spend money up front. Unless you're good at that renovation side, you're going to end up losing money. So it's smart to be having a process in place and have certain KPIs in place before you invest the money in any renovations.
Got it. Hey, that's something I learned about Novations. I was always wondering, like, well, why wouldn't they just list it with an agent? And that really clarified it for me because you can handle the renovations if needed.
So there's actually one more point. Actually, I forgot the original question. So the reason why they go with us, we take care of everything. So if they need help with a dumpster, we get a dumpster over there. We pay for that advance. If they need help with moving all the stuff out, I had one lady, their hand was broken. She wouldn't need to move. She already found a place. We got a mover company. All she had to do was point, and we took care of everything. We paid for all the costs up front. It came out of proceeds. We gave that advance. We have other cases where we go in there, do repairs ahead of time. There's a leak going on, some of the things that would not present well. So we offer a lot of other services. We do it as a part of the service. We have partners that can do those services. We get it at wholesale prices and retail prices, but we don't charge a fee as part of our service. And that is why they work with us. Sometimes we part, like, for example, there's a deal I just signed the day before on Monday. We're partnering with the guy. He's a flipper, but he got into the state. He was trying to flip his own house. And we're actually bringing in the money, and we're investing about $200,000 a home. It's in Bellevue, Washington, and we're going to work with him and partner with him. So that's why he gets the top dollar. He would maybe get it from some agents, but not the level of sophistication we have. So it all depends on the seller and the journey they need.
What are you most looking forward to in your business this year as we're wrapping up? Like, where do you want to take your business? What are you most excited about?
Honestly, the most excitement part for me is the amazing people we have. We can't do what we do if it wasn't for the Win-Win family. Every single one, we don't say it's team, it's a family. Some of us have been with us for over 5-6 years with us. So since we kind of separated, we've been set this goal every year and we have not hit it. And I believe this year we're going to hit it. Is that if we hit that 1 million a month again from that business alone, we're going to take every single employee we have, contractors, and we also have employees, but contractors in different countries. We're going to fly everybody to Cancun, and we're going to have a big celebration because not everybody's met everybody yet. So we're going to have a get together. So we're setting towards that $1 million goal. And that's going to mean life changing for a lot of our, family members, because some of them have goals to buy their own houses. One of them actually bought their house already from the money they made from his business working with us. So the aim is, one of the biggest thing we do is, the reason why we had that culture of win-win mentality, it starts with every single individual in our, our team or our family, right? And we know what their goals are. So as leaders, me and Alex always ask them, what drives you? Why are you here?
Right.
What's your biggest motivation? So that's what I'm excited about, because they're going to all hit their goals this year if we hit that number.
Dude, that's a great feeling, and good leadership to be understanding what they actually want. It's not just money, it's they want money to do something, right? So it puts a lot of purpose behind, growing your business so they can grow within your business. One last thing I wanted to ask was on the DealMachine side, we've really been able to help a lot of investors with some unique, hard to find data that they haven't been able to get. So a couple examples would be like, I was talking with Wes Knight. He actually wholesales land. And he was like, hey, can you get me a list of agents that have sold more than one new construction home in the last year? Not too many, because those agents will have the relationships with the independent builders that you could dispo your vacant land to for top dollar, right? The tract home builders, they want discounts, et cetera. So I was like, yes, we can. Other people wanted like double lots. Other people wanted property management companies in their area to build relationships with, so that when like a big portfolio is ready to sell, they just refer them, to, hey, this is the right person to go to sell that. Is there any type of data, that or something else that comes to mind where if I could wave a magic wand and solve that data issue for you guys? Is there anything that comes to mind for you?
I think the biggest data right now is finding out the sellers and what's going on, like with their finances, right? Like really understanding, like for example, we don't always get accurate data around what they owe, what the percentages are. So a lot of these creative deals, if we can understand exactly when they refinance the deal, what the percentage, the interest rates were, or if they're behind on those payments. If I had a magic wand, I could see like, hey, somebody is 6 months behind their payments before the pre-foreclosure process started. Because by the time they get to pre-foreclosure or foreclosure, there's 20 people going on them. So as a wholesaler or as a innovation person or as a flipper, I would love to have that data where I can go. I know that people have been working on it where you can go online and notice this out there. But if there's a way to automate that and then go one click and get the list of all the people within a certain area, and you can door knock or set up appointments with them with their phone numbers, I think also streamlining the ability to get, like we right now use like many different tools to try to get this data, but I wish it was in one place where you can look up, you can't get a hold of a person. You click on it and like you look up the addresses of who else lists the address and they get their numbers. So if you had it all in one tool, you can just call those numbers. A lot of times you can get a hold of that person that can connect you with the person who's making the decision. So those are the biggest points that we're missing right now.
Okay. Well, so like one example is like, this is one of my rental properties. Let me know if this is what you're talking about. So, I added a few more here. So 412 Jenny Lane, that's one of my rental properties. This is the likely owner. Mario is the family member resident, right? So this is what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Young, 22 years old. Here's his phone number. Household income, net asset value.
This is amazing.
Spender, credit card balance. He's not an investor. He has, potential, but high risk. And then here's more family members of him, for example. So you can kind of like search by some of those fields, but also like deep dive if you can't get a hold of the original owner, which is Shanita. So just to let you know, we have that. You can kind of search through this unlimited.
Does it have any loan information in there?
Yeah. So the loan information would be first mortgage, second mortgage. That's probably why it's high risk. Look at that.
Yeah.
So original loan amount, 177, 2.7 interest rate, FHA. And they, let's see when they, January 20th.
But looking at this data, I mean, because we didn't discuss this before, you're kind of showing me on the fly. But if you go to the left real quick there, right? You have a second loan that is at 10,000. And then if you go to show me the first loan, which is the FHA loan, go to the left. there's 177. So you put that together, they're about 188, 189, right? Depending on if the numbers are accurate or not, depending on the payments. And you look at it, there's estimated loan balances which are slightly lower at 167. You see the third line right there, and the interest rates are 2.71 and 2.67. If you look at the estimated value, it's at 253. So they have an amazing interest rate. And if you can figure out a way, I actually close a deal right now, and I won't go into specifics there, but I actually was able to use that to get a deal that would not make pencil at all, and I was able to buy it and hold on to it, where the interest rate, lower interest rate, and I was able to pay out the seller and make a deal happen. I was able to pay above what they wanted because of these things. Pace Morby explains that to us. So this data is amazing. That's why I was asking for the data, because I do make a lot of creative deals.
Dude, I'm glad you were excited about the data. Let me show you one more thing. Let's say the Shanita was not the right one. Here's everyone else named Shanita in the United States. We got one in Alabama, Louisiana, and Florida. Right. So you could dive into them. They're not the right one. I mean, it's pretty sure it's the one that lives in Indianapolis. But I was just showing you, because there are random cases where you do want to see, like, who else has named this in the US that I could, dive deeper into.
I think this is amazing. I mean, like I said, when I go to these deals, I'm using right now 4 or 5 different tools trying to piece it together. The fact that you guys have it all together in one place, I can click through and have all the data in one place. I mean, props team is great, but it's missing a lot of these pieces that you guys have there. So you and I need to talk, David. I've known you now for over 2 years. We should have seen this before and worked together on it, because this is great. This makes my life easier.
Yeah. Well, it was only a year and a half that we really found how to put the consumer data in here and pair it with the property. Who owns it? Who rents it? Let's filter by the consumer's buying power, or, like their risk in terms of the debt that they have. So yeah, if there's anything else or whatever, I mean, you could just start a free trial of this if you wanted to have unlimited access to this in your phone or something. So it's not a big ticket item, it's like $119 per month.
No, and let me turn the questions. You guys have been asking me questions for a little while now. So let me ask it. Maybe it's a plug or whatever you guys see it as. But honestly, I would like to know, what made you, because there's so many tools out there, what made you guys start with DealMachine in the first place?
Well, back in the day, I was told to drive for dollars, and it was taking up time to write stuff down on a notebook. And then I just made a tool that would let me pin the house, send mail to the owner, keep moving. So we really grew because there wasn't a tool to help people drive for dollars. And then in the last 2 years, after being in business for 7 years, we've actually grown 44% last year, 30% this year so far. And that's because we've added this consumer data that's included in the subscription. There's not a 10-cent per property skip trace cost, and it's actually better because we don't give you random phone numbers. We actually give you a file on each person, and it's pre-matched. So it gives you a lot more context on the person and the people, which is who you're doing the deal with anyway. So that's been the source of growth. A lot of people that have been around a long time may not know that yet, because they just think about us as the Driving for Dollars app. So it's glad I was able to get to show you this.
No, 100%, David. I mean, I knew you, and I thought it was Driving for Dollars thing. I actually will sign up for the trial and try it out, because I'm out there right now doing the appointments myself, and I know my own team will benefit from this. So I'm definitely interested to give it a shot, and then maybe we can do a follow-up, and I can let you guys know how much success I had. Okay, guys. It was a pleasure seeing you guys. Hope you see you.
It was a pleasure.
We'll talk soon. Thanks, guys.
All right. See you, Fayez.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.